Hey everybody, it's Aaron from Mad Mimi here. I think that we're ready to get started. So, thanks so much for joining us for our drip campaigns webinar. We're really excited to teach you a little bit more about what you can do with not only autoresponders, but also things like full out e-courses or automatic mailings that go out to your customers at different times. There's a lot that you can do with this add-on, so we're super excited to show that to you. The first thing I wanted to mention is that we do have a group chat box as part of this webinar platform. So, what's best is if you type your questions into that as we go through. And what we'll be doing is looping back to those questions. My colleague Mira is here. Thanks for joining us, Mira. And she's going to be kind of keeping an eye on the questions that you have as we go along. And we'll come back to those at the end and make sure we can go through them and answer probably not all of them, but as many as we can. So, I also wanted to give a shout out to our friends at Fuse. Fuse is the platform that we're using to facilitate this webinar, and they just went above and beyond helping us get ready for it. So, huge thanks to them for really helping us out. Yeah, so let's get started. Drip campaigns are basically synonymous. A lot of people think of drip campaigns as autoresponders, but as I mentioned, there's actually a lot more that you can do with them. You can do weekly emails, for instance. You can invite people to leave product reviews on your website. There's a lot of cool stuff. So I want to start with the basics, and we'll kind of work forward from there. And I'll also show you some advanced stuff that you can do with them. So let's just start by telling you a little bit about Mad Mimi. Most of you have used our platform before because if you got invited to this webinar, it means that you're already a user. But basically, we're an email marketing platform that you can use to create and design and send rather awesome looking emails to your subscribers. That's really what most people do with our platform. We have a lot of users, over 200,000. We integrate with a ton of awesome web apps that we're huge fans of ourselves. And we have a lot of great add-ons. And I'll focus mostly on drip campaigns today. There's another new one called Triggers that I'd like to demonstrate at the end. But on the whole, we're going to talk about drip campaigns, and we're really happy that you joined us. So my name's Aaron, and I'm coming at you from a very balmy Minnesota. It is finally a full 14 degrees Fahrenheit above zero compared to last week's negative 34. So I'm actually delivering this webinar outdoors. That was a lie. I'm very much inside, but I'm so glad that wherever you came from, you're with us today. So let's get right into it. What we're going to talk about today is a few different key things. The first two are the most key. Setting up the drip campaigns add-on for the first time and just getting rolling with basic autoresponders and things like that. And then we're going to move on into more advanced techniques and some other cool applications that you can use for drip campaigns, and also just opening the floor to your own ideas for how you can use them. And finally, I'm going to give you a quick overview of our Triggers add-on, which is new, which lets you distribute automated emails based on different events like birthdays or graduations or wedding anniversaries and stuff like that. So let's jump into the walkthrough. What I'm going to cover here is first how to enable the drip campaigns add-on. And from there, you can create a drip campaign, point it to an audience list, and actually facilitate all your signups automatically through a web form that you can either embed on your website or share via a static link. From there, I'll kind of show you your options between one-off autoresponders versus longer drip campaigns like a month-long e-course, for example. And then we'll just go through all the drip essentials for getting it set up, which is creating drips, cloning regular promos into drip campaigns from your dashboard, reordering your drips, toggling the draft mode of each one, and then you can actually pause and unpause the full campaign. So I'm going to bounce out of this slideshow and jump into our account here. And I've already set up a drip campaign as an example, but what I'm going to do first is show you where to access the add-on. And my colleague Mira is pinging me that it sounds like everybody can hear the audio beeps of people joining. I'm really sorry about that. I have everyone's microphones muted, which is the best way to go about this, especially as more people join, but it doesn't appear that I actually have a way to adjust the audio beeps for people joining in. So I'm sorry about that. And I'll keep pressing forward, and my apologies. We're doing it live, so we're gonna run into some stuff like that, and I really appreciate your patience on tolerating some of those little quirks. So to enable the drip campaigns add-on, what you're gonna do is just log in. This is your main dashboard, and you can click this plus symbol in the top right corner to view your add-ons page. So from there, you can just scroll down until you find the drip campaigns add-on right here, and we've already got it flipped on. You'll just flip this orange switch, and then if you want to get started right away, you can click the blue go set it up link. So what I wanted to demo first here was a very common application for drip campaigns is to have just an autoresponder that goes out anytime somebody signs up for your list. So the first two things that you'll usually want to have in place for that is a dedicated audience list for those signups and a dedicated web form that will take those signups and add them to that list for you automatically. So let's create the audience list first. We'll just hop over to our audience tab here, and I'll create a new list, and I'll just call it Aaron's example. And I mean, I may as well add a contact right now. I'll just add myself to this, and I'll spell correctly. Awesome. So we have our list prepped for this drip campaign. Now what we're going to want to do is create a dedicated web form that points to that list. So let's hop over to our web forms and let's add a new one. And I'll just again call this Aaron's example, just like my demo list. And the key thing that we're going to want to do here is make sure we're using this add a list option over on the right sidebar to make sure that we're filtering any incoming subscribers into that list that we're going to point our drip campaign to. So I'll click the add a list drop down and I'll point it to the list that I just made in my audience. And of course, there's a lot of other great stuff you can do with web forms. I won't get into that right now. But the bare bones of it is that we want to have it set up and we want to have it pointing to that list. So that's all good. We can use the share link to share that web form, and we can use these different types of embed code to embed it into our website. Then whenever people subscribe, they'll go to Aaron's example, and if I point a drip campaign to that list, which I'll show you in a second, they will receive any drips that I've set up for them. So let's go get rolling with a drip campaign here. I'll click over to drips, which is a link that you'll see after you enable the drip campaigns add-on. Let's head over there. So this basically is going to remind you an awful lot of the main dashboard composer, but with a few extra tricks that you can do. So we'll just click new drip campaign. And again, I'll call this example. We're going to choose which list it goes to. And this is where we kind of come up with our full circle holistic solution with our web form and our list, because we're going to point the drip campaign to the list that I showed you how to make. So now how it's going to work is people will sign up through the web form, they'll be added to this list, and they'll start getting the drip. So I can set it to go out however often I want it to. In this case, I'll just stick with every day at 8 a.m. But this is going to be a one-off autoresponder. So there aren't actually going to be any additional drips. It's just going to be the one that I create. So what you'll do is you'll tick this box that says, send the first promotion immediately after a user signs up. That just ensures that anytime somebody subscribes to that web form or you add them to that list manually, they're going to receive this drip right away. And that's another point I wanted to make in addition, is that once you have a drip campaign set up, anytime somebody ends up on that list, whether you manually add them to it or they come in through a web form, they'll be a subscriber to your drip campaign. So that's important to know. So let's go ahead and create the drip campaign. And from here, this add the first drip button, this is really like clicking the compose button on your dashboard. You'll see that if I click this, I'm just brought to our standard composer, just like you would see if you composed a new email on the main dashboard. So I actually am not going to make one right now because I wanted to show you a cool trick. One of my favorite techniques to use is to clone in a promotion from the dashboard. The reason I like to do that is because sometimes I find that the drips that I'm creating are also useful as standalone mailings. So I'll create them on the main dashboard first, and then I'll clone them into the drip campaign, just so that I have them accessible in both places. So I've prepped a mailing. This is our standard mailing for people who sign up for Mad Mimi. We have this autoresponder that goes out and invites them to learn a lot more about the platform. So if I had this set up on my dashboard and I wanted to put it in my drip campaign, all I have to do is click this little sheep icon underneath it, and that's the clone button. And then I can select the drip campaign, and I can just choose from this list the one that I have set up. So I'll go ahead and I'll click clone. We'll clone it right in there. And if we jump back to drips, this can take a few minutes, so I'm not sure it'll be there, but I hope it will be. Hop back over here, and here it is. So you can see that I was just able to clone that straight into the drip campaign that I just created. So what I want to do is make sure to go ahead and edit it and clean up any content. And once I'm happy with that, let's go back to the main drips page here. I can show you some other options that you'll have with your drips. The first thing is draft mode, and this is more useful if you're making like a longer course like this one right here. Pretend that I had all of these enabled, but I wanted to, maybe I wasn't certain about one of them. I could toggle one back to draft and maybe leave the others set up. That just makes sure that basically if one's in draft mode and your campaign is already enabled, that particular course that you have in draft mode will be skipped. So the bottom line is if you want an autoresponder, you're going to want to make sure it's not in draft mode because that'll make sure it goes out. From there are some other settings that you'll want to set up before you enable the campaign, and that's to click Edit and basically set up your schedule. So here you just click the settings, and this is a lot like if you click Send on the main dashboard and then click over to the Details tab. This is pretty much the same thing that you'll see. So you'll set up the from name here and the from email address that you want your recipients to see in their inboxes. And then you can set the subject line to whatever you'd like. I'm just going to leave this where it was. And then these would be your social sharing options, just like, again, the main dashboard, where if you check these boxes, it will give people the option to click little buttons in the top left corner of your mailing and share your promo to their own social media pages, which is always super convenient, especially if you're trying to get a little viral attention for your content. So with all that set up, I would click continue. Mimi gives me just a final confirmation screen. This is awesome. I can click looks good, save it. I can take it out of draft mode, and I can go back to my drips, my main drips page, and I can go ahead and run the campaign. And actually, my version of Firefox is acting up, so I'm sorry about the draft mode weirdness that I'm running into. But with it like this, out of draft mode, all set up with all the settings that I'd like, I can go ahead and click Run Campaign. And from then on, everything is going to be automatic. So with the web form that I set up and the audience list that I set up, anytime someone ends up on that list, they'll get this new account liftoff email. So that's kind of the way that most people like to get started with drip campaigns. I see a lot of people who just want to send out autoresponders after they take new signups. So that is how to do that. But another option that you can explore would be if you wanted to send out automated mailings over a longer period of time. And so what I've done is I've actually brought in an example from one of our users' accounts who gave us permission to show you these. She's a photographer named Brooke Snow, and she likes to put out kind of weekly, she has an e-course is what we would call it, for weekly advice on how to become a better photographer. So this is the exact same setup. It's just that instead of stopping with the first mailing that you created, you're adding more to it, and then you're setting up a schedule for all of them in relation to each other. So let's go ahead and see what those options look like. I'll click edit, And this is the same screen that you would see if you had one drip, except there's more drips beneath it. And what you can see is that each one has a little note underneath it showing you the frequency at which you have them set to go out. So drip campaigns, the drips within them go out in relation to one another. So you'll set the first one to go out whenever you'd like. The most common way I would say is to have it go out immediately, just like I showed you with that autoresponder. And then you'll set up the rest to go out in relation to each other after that. So in this case, what we're looking at is a month-long e-course where Brooke has it set up so that people sign up, they get their first introductory email, and then the next week they get the second one, and they get two more the following 2 weeks, once per week, and then they're done. Um, so to edit that, what you can do is you just go to your settings, and you can see right here that you have little drop downs that let you choose the frequency, or rather the interval at which you want this to go out in relation to the previous drip. So in this case, we'll just say 1 week, but you can actually go a lot longer than that. You can have things go out months apart, and sometimes for different applications, it's better to have things go out after a while. For instance, I have a friend who uses drip campaigns to invite people to leave reviews on his website's products, and so he usually lets it go about 2 months before distributing drips, and that can be really nice too. So that's the basics of creating drips. I also wanted to show you that while you're setting things up, you have this nice drag option, so you can just really easily move things around and choose where you want your drips to appear in your campaign. We already went over toggling drafts and cloning from the main dashboard. What I wanted to do, actually, I'll go ahead and I'll run the other drip that I showed you, the first autoresponder, just so that I can show you, cool, that you can pause it. So you'll see now, anytime you have a drip campaign running, we have the little Mimi rocket ship here blinking and showing you that it's going and that it's live. If I want to pause the campaign anytime, I can just click this, and there you go. It's paused. Sometimes if people want to make edits to their content, it's nice to pause the campaign and maybe make some edits or update things and then run it again. So with that, and I know there are probably some questions, but I'll try to get to those at the end here. Let's go on to some more advanced things. And I'll talk about them here, and then I'll kind of jump in and demo some for you. So we have another add-on called Link to List. And what's really cool about that is it lets you turn a regular promo link into something that actually adds the people who click it to a designated list within your audience when they click it. And that's all behind the scenes. So when you're using Link to List, you would link them to a normal page and they'd be brought to that page, but then behind the scenes in your Mimi account, they'd be added to a list. So I'll show you how that could tie into a drip campaign in a second here. As far as number 2 goes, we actually have a lot of people that will use drip campaigns in conjunction with CRMs, so that you'll have CRMs automatically adding people to the lists that you want your drip campaigns to go to. And that's awesome because it makes things fully automated to the point that you almost don't have to do anything after the initial setup. And you'll have a bunch of automated mailings getting distributed, which is super nice. You can also incorporate personalization tags so that, for instance, in the greeting, it says the person's name. Or you could take it to the next level even and have it so that the body content of your mailing mentions specific products they might have bought and things like that. And then we can talk about some other applications that I've seen, some cool ideas. I'd love to hear your ideas too for how you could envision your business using drip campaigns. And I'll show you how you can distribute free content, such as ebooks, which is another really popular way to use this add-on. So let's jump back into the account here, and I'll show you Link to List first. That is accessible on the same page as the add-ons page. And by the way, I'm just going to leave a little more loading time after I click things because I understand that there's a little bit of a delay in the screen share, and I want to make sure that all of you can see what I'm doing. So I've clicked the plus symbol to jump over to the add-ons page. And just like before, when I turned on drip campaigns, I'll scroll down and I'll find link to list. And it's probably already on in this account. It is indeed. Same process, you just flip the orange switch. Now, what that means is that whenever you're working on any promotion and you create a hyperlink, you're able to not only have the hyperlink work as a link, but also add someone to an audience list. So in this case, let's pretend that I wanted somebody to receive my e-course, and I wanted to give them that option in a normal promotion sent from my main dashboard. Let's just double check which list this e-course is going to. It's going to Shoot Like a Pro. So what I can do is hop over to my main dashboard. I'll just create a new mailing so I can show all of you this quick. And I'll drag in my banner and I'll just create a text module and say something like, "Hi, first name, to sign up for my awesome new e-course." So in this case, I want them to be able to click this and be added to the audience list so that they start receiving my e-course. I can use link to list to do that, and it's really slick. Um, the first thing that I want to make clear is that you will want to have an actual page for them to be linked to, because for them, it'll function as a normal link. They'll click this and they'll be led wherever you've specified. So a lot of people will have a landing page that they've prepared on their website, or they can even create another Mimi mailing to act as the landing page. You could just grab the web version link for the Mimi mailing and drop it here and have the content say something like, "Awesome, thanks for signing up for my e-course." And I'm going to fix this typo. Um, so I'll highlight click here and I'll use the hyperlink option in the text module to link it. And for demo purposes, I'm just going to use my old standby, which is Google. So in this case, they'd be led to Google, but we're going to pretend that's a really nicely made landing page. And this is what link to list does. It shows you an option to make it so that if they click the link, they'll be added to a list. So we'll check this off and we'll make it so that if they click that link, they're added to the Shoot Like a Pro list, which is where our drip campaign is pointed to. We'll save that. Mimi drops in the necessary coding, and if you click preview in the top left corner of the module, you'll see that to them it's just going to look normal. So what's going to happen is if they click here, they'll be brought to the page you specified. For me, that was Google. But now in the background, they've been added to my Shoot Like a Pro list, and they're actually probably already receiving the drip campaign, the weekly e-course that I had set up there. So link to list can be really useful if for instance, you've set up a drip campaign that's already been going out for a while, but you think to yourself, "Oh man, I wish that my existing subscribers could get that too, and I want to let them know about it." You totally can. You can just email all of them, include a link like this, and use link to list to make it so that anybody who clicks on that, it's automatic again for you. So they'll just start receiving the e-course, and after sending this, you don't have to do anything else. So what I want to talk about next is using drip campaigns in conjunction with external CRMs. And I'm not actually going to demo anything. I will mention that we have a lot of great integrations with CRMs. You can click on the plus sign to look at the add-ons page and see a lot of those integrations, but you can also just visit madmimi.com/integrations to see all of those. So instead of demoing, I wanted to just talk about a use case that one of my friends has in place on Mad Mimi, and I mentioned this a little bit ago. My friend Bob has a company that sells music stands, and he has a WordPress/WooCommerce site where he facilitates sales. So there's actually a WooCommerce Mad Mimi plugin made by a company called Woo Themes, and what that does is when people buy certain products from his store, it will check to see if there's an existing list in his Mad Mimi audience for that product. And if so, it will add them to it. But if there isn't one, it will actually automatically create the product list for him. And it's just named the same thing as the product. So from there, what Bob does is he comes into drip campaigns and he'll just create autoresponders designed specifically to go out to people who have purchased a particular product by just pointing the drip campaign to the product list. And in his case, he uses it for inviting people to leave reviews on his website, which is awesome. So he has it set to go out, a month or two after the order is placed, under the reasoning that it's given them time to not only receive the product, but actually test it out and use it a little bit in the real world. So then a month or two in, they get an email that says, "Hey, Bob, I hope you're liking your Troubadour music stand. It would be awesome if you could click this link and jump over to my website and leave a review." And that's just, I mean, one of many examples of how you can use these for some automatic engagement, where after the initial setup, you have things set to go and you don't actually have to pay much attention to it. Everything happens automatically for you. And it's super convenient. So, yeah, you can use drip campaigns with your CRMs. And of course, it's always awesome to see you guys get creative with it. That was just one example, but really the sky's the limit. There's probably things that can be done with drip campaigns that I haven't even seen yet. The other thing you can do is incorporate personalization tags. And I did use one in the basic example mailing that I created just a second ago. Um, the first step when you're using personalization tags is to make sure that you have that data in your audience. And to show you how to do that, I actually prepared a little spreadsheet to show you what that would look like. So in this case, this is just Microsoft Excel. And I've created a list containing a few of my colleagues and myself. And what you'll see is that this is really just as basic as it gets as far as making a spreadsheet that I'm going to save as a CSV file. So the key things for personalization tags, which are, to recap, when you want to include personal details in an email, like a person's first name or their company name, is to have column headers at the top that use all lowercase, and they actually use underscores instead of spaces. So in this case, I just have a few. I have first name and last name, the email address, of course, and then the custom fields I'm using via CSV file are company, birthday, anniversary, and graduation. And those are all going to come back into play when I show you the triggers add-on at the end. But for now, I just wanted to show you how to make these. You just create the column headers, you fill in the content, and then what you'll do is you'll do a save as, and you'll go ahead and you'll choose the CSV option from your dropdown. So now that I have this ready, I want to show you what will happen if I upload it to the Mad Mimi audience. And this will all come full circle into drip campaigns, I promise. So let's upload that list I just showed you to this new list I made. Let's see here. Here we go. I have it set to go to the Aaron's example list, and I'll just add that. And what you'll see is that once this is imported and I refresh the audience page to see all those new contacts, all that data went right along with them. So here are their names. We don't all have the same last name of Meep. We just fondly call each other Meeps here in Mimiland. So I'll click on my contact details to see these custom fields that I added. So because I uploaded a CSV spreadsheet, all these made it safely into my Mad Mimi audience, which is awesome. But what's even cooler is that I can call these out in my mailings from now on. So if, for instance, I put parentheses anniversary in a Mad Mimi mailing just in my body text, Mimi will swap that out and display this when I actually send out the mailing to this contact. So you can do this in your drip campaigns by using the same method that I demoed just a bit ago. Let's go ahead and just edit this existing drip to show you. And in this case, what I could do is just add a quick greeting at the top and say something like, hi, and then in parentheses, first name. Now, all I have to do is save this, and when the drip goes out, instead of saying hi, first name, when I send it to aaron@madmimi.com, it's going to say hi, Aaron. And that's really nice. It's a great way to make not only your drips, but all of your mailings way more personal for the person receiving them. So That's just another little cool bit of flair you can add to your drips. From here, I wanted to talk about some other cool ideas. I already mentioned Bob, my friend Bob's case of using drip campaigns to gather product reviews. Um, but you could also use it, for instance, for following up on orders in a more general way. Um, and you can actually distribute free content. This is another really popular method that I see a lot of users uh, asking me about, wanting to send out free content as a reward for subscribing to their list. So you totally can do that in Mad Mimi, but what I wanted to briefly touch on is that pretend you're distributing a PDF, or you're serializing a book, for instance, where you're sending out, a chapter a week to people who have subscribed to see some advanced content from you. Um, what you can do is upload, if you have, PDF files of your chapters, upload those first to a cloud file storage service like Digio, for example, who we're big fans of, or like Dropbox is a really popular one, and so is Box.com. And the reason for that is that straight up attachments are pretty big flags for spam filters. So it's always better to put something in the cloud and then copy the share link from that platform and drop that into your Mad Mimi mailing, whether that's a normal mailing or a drip. And that way, when your drip goes out, your audience members will basically have the same experience. They'll be able to click on the link and preview your content or download it to their own computers, which is what you want. So that's another great way to use drip campaigns in conjunction with cloud file storage to send out free stuff. And everyone, including me, loves free stuff. So the last thing I wanted to demonstrate before getting into our Q&A was our brand new triggers add-on. And this ties into the CSV file that I just showed you. I'm going to let that display for just a second again and leave it here in case there's a screen share delay. So we have our custom fields of birthday, anniversary, and graduation uploaded. And while we all do not have the last name Meep, we also don't have birthdays, anniversaries, and graduations that are each a day apart from each other. That's just there for example. So this is a new add-on that we're really excited about that lets you send emails to people based on particular events in their lives. So the first thing to do is make sure you have your data incorporated, which we do, as I showed you before. So if Aaron Meep was not myself, I could send myself a mailing on my anniversary and actually set that up well in advance and not have to do it manually when the time comes. So the first step is always to upload a CSV file containing all that info that you want the contact to have. Then you'll go back to your add-ons page and you'll scroll down, and it's probably at the bottom because it's brand new. And here we are. I'm just going to let my screen hang out on this frame for a second. Here's the triggers add-on, and I'm going to go ahead and flip it on. Awesome. So we have triggers enabled now. And just like every other add-on, I'll click the Go Set It Up link. And I'll click the orange New Trigger button in the top right. And this is where everything gets set up. So I can call it anything I want. And in this case, I'm just going to say happy anniversary. Now I'll assign this trigger to an audience list. And in this case, I'm going to use Aaron's example because I know that I already have anniversary data for all these people. The data column that I'm looking for in this audience is going to be anniversary right here. Now I choose a promotion to be sent. That's a part that I left out because I know that I've demoed kind of how to create new promos, and most of you know how to do that already. So if you had created kind of a happy anniversary promo in advance on your dashboard, this is where you would choose it. I'll just use the Mad Mimi new account liftoff as an example. But if you had created one, you'd see it on this list, and maybe it would say anniversary email. You'd select it, and then you would just select the time that you want it to go out on that that person's anniversary. So let's say 8 a.m. Just start the day off right with a nice happy anniversary mailing. Then you click next, and you set up all those same details as before. And I'll go ahead and make the subject line something like happy anniversary. And actually, let's even use a personalization tag in our subject line, which can be really cool. And this is probably private, so I'll actually disable the social sharing. I just want this to go to them. And I'll go ahead and click save. Now, if this were an anniversary mailing, I would click start. And from here on out, the people on that list are going to get the happy anniversary mailing I set up on their anniversary, which is awesome. So that is the triggers add-on. And that is really the last thing that I had to show you before getting into your questions. So let me go ahead and actually, yeah, my colleague Mira is making a good point that the trigger emails will send every year on that date unless you disable the trigger. So you can have it set up. You can run it every year if you want, or you can just run it once and then come back and pause it or delete the trigger. So let's go ahead and move to the Q&A. I'm just going to set this back to the dashboard while we do this. And I'll pull up our chat panel here. And we'll pick out some questions to go through with you guys. I see that there's a lot of them. Mira makes a good point. The webinar is being recorded, and we'll upload that when we're done here. Let's see. Oh, so one question that somebody asked was, when new people sign up, do you have to export and import with Excel again? Not if you have your web form set to populate those details. So if there are certain details that you're really needing incorporated into your audience, you're just going to want to make sure they're built into your web form beforehand. So let's edit one just to show you. You can add all these different fields. And actually, you can make them required fields by checking this little box and turning it into a red asterisk, which indicates that it's required. So to more fully answer your question, anytime you upload a CSV spreadsheet with extra details for contacts who are already in your audience, Mimi will actually add all those details to them, which is super convenient. So if you're concerned that you have existing contacts that don't have all the info that's necessary, you can just make your own CSV with that info, upload it into your Mad Mimi audience, and know that now they'll have that in their details. Someone asked, this is a great question, are there other free webinars you guys offer at other times too? The answer is yes. We have a daily webinar every weekday, that is Monday through Friday. And every day it's at 1 p.m. Eastern, and it runs for 30 minutes. It's our Getting Started webinar, and it teaches you all the basics of Mad Mimi. So things that I didn't really get into today, because this was more geared toward drip campaigns and other kind of advanced things. The regular webinar teaches you how to compose mailings, add contacts, send mailings, and any other questions that really come up during that. Another great question that Mira sent my way is, do you have a better looking sign up for WordPress sites? We have a plugin, actually, an official plugin for embedding your web forms into your WordPress website. So what you're going to want to do, I'll show you the search for finding it. You'll just say something like Mad Mimi WordPress official sign up forms. And you're going to want to make sure that this is the one you're using. There are some third-party ones floating around out there, and they can cause some issues because they don't quite work as they're supposed to. But our official one does. And what's great about this is if you install this plugin and follow the instructions on this installation tab here, your web form will actually adopt your WordPress theme, and it usually looks really sharp. So yeah, absolutely. If you have a web form and you want to embed it into your WordPress site, this is an awesome way to do that. Let's take some other questions. I'm just going to open my chat box again, and I'm going to make sure everyone's muted here. Cool. And Gino has to leave. Thanks so much for being here, Gino. We're glad you came. let's see if anyone has any other questions that Mira hasn't yet weighed in on. Okay, let's start with Gene. Some of my contacts have birth dates in the system, some don't. If I use Trigger to send birthday messages, will the ones who don't have a birth date in my list get blank messages? They won't get blank messages. They would get, well, since that's the triggers add-on and Mimi will be looking for that field, I think that if they don't have that field, they'll just be left off of the blast entirely. So they won't actually receive a trigger email unless they have the column that your trigger is calling out. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. You would just have to know that people without the birthday field would not get your birthday trigger. And I want to actually address Barb's question right below Gene's because that's a really good one. What if you put first name but the person's first name isn't in your data? What will the email look like? This is a great question because I can actually demo this. What you'll want to do is tweak your personalization tag just a bit to include what we call a fallback parameter. And a fallback parameter, to put it in plain English, is a backup word that will be displayed in the event that the person doesn't have the data that you're calling out. So pretend I had dear first name, and I was sending it to somebody who I didn't actually have a first name added for. I would do something like this. I just, with no spaces, I would put comma, and then fallback equals, and then the word that I want to be displayed instead. So a lot of us, friend is a good default, but you can make this word really be anything that you want it to be. So in this case, if I send it to the email address aaron@madmimi.com, but I don't actually have Aaron listed as the first name for that contact, Mimi will just say dear friend. And having fallback parameters, I think, is always great because it certainly can't hurt. It just means that no matter what, there will be a word there. Otherwise, what would happen is they would see this. It would be dear blank space comma. So yeah, I definitely recommend having a fallback parameter, and I'm glad you asked about that. Thanks. Let's see if there are some other good questions here. Yeah, Barb, to kind of extrapolate on what Dean said, you can create any custom fields you want. Again, you'll just want to make sure they're lowercase and use underscores. So in this case, if you wanted to have a wedding venue column, you would jump into Excel and you could just do it like this. Wedding underscore venue. And really, it's as simple as that. When you upload your CSV file, all that data will go in. Awesome. So I see some new messages coming in. Let's check it out. Perry, we aren't running this exact webinar again, but we're putting it on the web after it's done. We're putting up a recording. If you want to email us at support@madmimi.com with your email address, we'll make sure you get sent the recording when it's ready. Jillian says, is there a way for us to send the drips after they fill out a contact form without having them fill out a separate Mad Mimi form? I just want to make sure I'm understanding this question correctly. Well, yeah, one thing that you could do in this case, let me show you this trick. I hope this is what you mean. I might be wrong. And in that case, you can just email me, aaron@madmimi.com, and I'll help you out. But one cool trick that you can do with your web forms is you can add more than one list to the specifics on the right sidebar. So if I add Aaron's example as the destination list for these signups, and then I add another one, let's just use that shoot like a pro list from before. Watch what happens over here. Mimi actually adds both lists to the web form with checkboxes, and now people can select which lists they want to be added to. And you can make that required so they have to choose. So what you could do is if you just wanted to give them the example to sign up for different drip campaigns or one regular list in a drip campaign, you can just choose all of them from the add a list dropdown, and then you wouldn't have to have more than one web form. So I'll go ahead and undo these changes. Awesome. And let's go back to the chat box here. Ooh, Sharon, that is a deep question. She says, "What is your favorite task you have found successful to do with Mad Mimi?" Oh boy, um, I think the one that I am most excited about is the automated follow-ups to people who are purchasing items from a website, from a web store. I think that's awesome. It's so cool that you can do that and have it be automatic without actually having to do anything. And that's what my friend Bob does. People buy a product, and then a month later or 2 months later, they get a follow up asking them how they like it and if they would be willing to leave a review. And I've been super impressed with that. I think it's really slick. So that would be my pick for now. Maybe I haven't found it yet. I don't know. Barb asks, is there a cost to using drip campaigns? No, there is not. It used to be that drip campaigns were only available to paid users, but now drip campaigns are also available to free users who have 100 contacts or fewer. And then above the 100 contact level, that's when you'll get into paid plans, and you'll still have drip campaigns. So you will have access to it either way. So if you're starting small, you can definitely take it for a spin and see how you like it. Um, Jeanette makes a great point. Another option to entering info via CSV form is to add the field using the audience edit function. So you can hop over to your audience page and you can jump into a contact and you can use this add another field option to add fields after they're already there. So you don't have to do it via a CSV file. CSVs are just my favorite way to make mass edits to the audience if I have a lot of people to edit at once, because then I don't have to go through every single person and it's really slick. Let's see here. Barb says, is there a way to have people subscribe to my newsletter directly from Facebook? Yeah, there's actually a way to embed your Mad Mimi web forms into your Facebook page by going back to the add-ons. Again, it's that plus sign in the top right corner of the dashboard. And you'll scroll down. There's an add-on called Facebook Signups. And that's a great way to integrate. Let's see if I can find it. Here you go. So once you click Go Set It Up, what'll happen is you'll want to authorize your Facebook page. So you'll have to put in your Facebook email address and password. And once you've done that, there will be a little tab. This is something I would probably be able to go into more with you via private email. But there will be a tab on your Facebook page for your Mad Mimi web form. And that's where people will actually be able to sign up through your Mimi web form on your Facebook page. So yeah, again, it's Aaron at madmimi.com, AARON, if you want to chat more about specific questions when our time is up here. And whether I'm around or not, somebody will be there from the team to help you get your questions answered. Lori says, how do I embed HTML on emails? You can use, this is another pretty big question that would be best for our support inbox, but you can actually incorporate basic HTML into any Mad Mimi text module. If you type, for instance, if I want to put in a manual line break, I could put in the simple HTML code for a line break right here, and you can see that it gets added. So if you're good with HTML, you can incorporate some of that into these text modules in any standard composed Mimi mailing, including drips. Cool. And of course, we have a custom HTML composer if you're really good at coding HTML and you want to actually build your entire mailing from scratch. Let's see here. Just going to see if any other questions come through. Looks like Mira and Dean really jumped on a lot of these. This is awesome. Thanks for all the great questions, by the way. This has been super great. Let's see here. All right. Lori is asking a little bit about PayPal. Yeah, that would be best to handle via emailing our support team again. What you can do is if you have like a PayPal checkout page, you could upload an image of a PayPal button to your image gallery in your Mimi mailing, drag it into an image module, just like a normal image, and then link it to your PayPal checkout page. Now, Miranda asks, is there a way to see which list people are members of without having to go into each individual's personal details? Yep, that's something that we could pull together from our developers. So you can email us at support@madmimi.com anytime, and we'll just get that put together for you. Scott Perry says, how do I sort my audience list alphabetically? Mad Mimi actually randomizes the contacts upon upload. So while you can't actually sort that within your Mad Mimi account, what you can do is just hop over and export your list by selecting the list and using this export button. And then you can use a program like Excel to just go ahead and select everybody and sort them based on, like, for instance, the first letter of their first name and different things like that. And as Dean mentions, we're going to add in the option to list your audience members alphabetically soon. So we just haven't gotten around to that yet. But in the meantime, using a spreadsheet program like Excel is the way to go. Oh yeah, and Mira raises a great point. You can search your audience anytime. So if I'm looking for a specific person, I can go ahead and type them in here and search it, and there you go. All right. Any other questions, everybody? We'll probably wrap up in just a few minutes here, so I'll keep answering questions until about 4 p.m. Eastern. Barb asks, can I add a contact list to send to, but just not to one or two specific people on the list? Actually, the workaround for that, Barb, would be to create a list that you intend to exclude on your mailing. So let me demo that real quick. Let's pretend that I wanted to send a mailing to everybody in my list except for my colleagues, James and Angelina. What I could do is check off James and Angelina in my audience and add them to their own list. And I'll just say something like exclude this list with the date. Awesome. So now what I could do is if I were sending a mailing out, I would click send on it. I'd hop over to details. I would stay on recipients, sorry, and I would just click include next to my entire audience. And what I would do then is I would find the list that I set aside for exclusion, and I would click the exclude button next to it. Now what's going to happen is my mailing is going to go to every single person on my list, except for these two people, and excluding leaves people out no matter how many lists they're on. So even if James and Angelina are on other lists that I'm including, since I clicked exclude next to them in any list, they're going to be left off of it. So that would be a good workaround. Scott asks, is there a way to make windows wider than 590 pixels? The way to do that would be if you were custom HTML coding your own mailings. The standard composer we've built has really been tailored for the best possible compatibility with email inboxes. And in addition to that, a really popular way to view emails these days is on mobile devices like smartphones and tablets. So our 590 pixel width for the mailings is something that we've set up because it's just really friendly with inboxes and devices. So the standard composer is built that way by design, but of course, if you're good with HTML, you can custom code your own, and the sky's the limit on that. You'll just want to make sure you have a good handle on HTML and um, test out your compatibility before doing full blasts. Lori asks, can I have multiple Mad Mimi emails? That's kind of a multifaceted question. You can change the details on every mailing you send. So you can always hop over to the details tab, change the from name and the from email address and the subject line. If you want to actually have some accounts nested into your account, you can use our multi-user add-on, which lets you create users that can kind of log in and share some stuff with you. It's a little bit complex, and I'd love to go over that with you via email. So, again, for everyone, my email address is aaron@madmimi.com, AARON at madmimi.com, and you can email me anytime you want. Let's see here. And I'm thinking that it's 4 p.m. Eastern, so it's probably a good time to wrap up. I know that there are more questions coming in, and I'm bummed to not be able to address them. But our email inbox team is around 24/7. We actually never close. So it's just support@madmimi.com. My direct line is Aaron, AARON, at madmimi.com. I just want to say that it was so great of everybody to turn up today. We were really excited to have this kind of turnout for this webinar. So thanks so much, everybody, for taking the time out of your afternoon or wherever you are in whatever time zone to join us. So I really appreciate it. And again, email us at support@madmimi.com if you have lingering questions. And Aaron@madmimi.com, AARON, is how you can reach me. Thanks again, everyone, and happy drip campaigning. And thanks for coming out.